So one of the big take-home points that I want everybody to get out of this presentation is, does non-GMO mean that a food is healthier or cleaner? And it absolutely does not. Organic and non-GMO are completely different things, okay? So we're gonna look at that. Organic means that it was grown without pesticides and herbicides, and non-GMO just means that the plant was not genetically engineered. And as you just saw in the last slide, doesn't mean anything when it comes to the toxic load that these plants were sprayed with. So again, Cheerios and other brands, oats and things, say that they're non-GMO, but they can be heavily sprayed. They are heavily sprayed if they're not organic. There's high levels of glyphosate in oats and many other foods. So again, these non-GMO crops, you can see it pictured, which is just a nice visual for you to be able to remember. But again, the oats, wheats, legume, lentils, chickpeas, peas, and potatoes. So other than wheat, everything that you see pictured there, listed there, is in high percentages in grain-free foods for dogs. And so how do we know that all of these, how do we know these levels are so high in these foods and where the levels are? Well, there are lots of tests going on, and fortunately, the Health Research Institute, or the HRI Labs, which was founded by Larry Bolin. Fortunately for me, I met Larry shortly after I met Dr. Zach Bush, and so this was perfect. It really helped me to put all of these pieces together in a comprehensive picture of what's going on in pet foods and our own foods in order for me to share this with you. So HRI is an excellent organization that is doing independent testing. Okay, they run on private donation only, so that they don't have any big sponsors that are adding any bias to their testing. Okay, so we can trust their results, which is awesome. And their mission, which I'm so grateful for, is to create food systems that nourish people and animals, support farmers, protect the environment, and sustain soils that grow our food. So wonderful organization, and several of the slides that I present were shared with me by Larry Bolin from the HRI Labs. This is one of them, and I'm sure you can't see this fine print, but what I wanted to get across in this slide is that pet foods are some of the most highest levels of glyphosate tested, and very specifically dog food certainly is. And this is a slide actually from HRI, from Larry, and he likes to call them the OWL foods, which is really nice, that acronym, so you can remember that oats, wheat, and legumes are some of the highest glyphosate foods because, again, they're sprayed at the end of the crop season. And as I mentioned, the corn and the soy and other GMO crops are more of like a medium grade of or level of glyphosate in them. And as a reminder, non-GMO and natural, when you see that on the label, that makes no difference in the level of herbicides and toxins such as glyphosate. And indeed, here is a big kicker for everybody to get today out of this discussion, is that dogs have the highest levels of glyphosate tested in any being, any animal, or much higher than humans. And you can see from this chart, the very low red bar graph is humans on the left, and then you see cats and dogs and horses. So dogs have on average 32 times more glyphosate in them. We are measuring this in urine, and we're going to talk about that. And then horses are right behind them at 29 times higher than humans. Cats are about 16 times higher than humans. And it's probably because there's less plant material in their foods because they're more carnivore than dogs even. And so there's less of these types of foods that have as many toxins in them, but also most cats don't spend as much time outdoors as well, so they get less outdoor environment exposure. Horses, of course, get a lot of environment exposure, and they're eating alfalfa and oats and things, so they get high levels. Now, this is a graph that was shared with me by HRI, but was not a study directly from them. This was actually showed up in a human medical journal, and this was a study that took place in a 20-year span from 1995 to 2015 that showed a 38-fold increase of glyphosate in the urine of American humans, people, in the past 20 years. So you can just see the exponential rate of glyphosate exposure for us. And then knowing that our dogs are 32 times higher than we are. So that is really a heavy, heavy toxic burden. Okay, so now just as a quick review, how is glyphosate used? We talked about most recognized as an herbicide. It's inhibiting the plant enzymes, which is unfortunately blocking important nutrients, making the food less nutritious. It's also regulating the crop growth with desiccating it and ripening it with time control, which can make some crops, heavily toxic. And then thirdly, we're going to look at now its role as an antibiotic. It's really interfering with everybody's microbiome and with the soil health around this planet. It's interfering with microbes in the soil, which are tremendously important for our planetary health and our own health. So glyphosate as an antibiotic, we now know that it is the most widely used antibiotic worldwide, okay? And it's leading to a lot of antibiotic resistance. We know that prescription drugs are overused in veterinary industry and in the human medical industry. We've all taken, way more antibiotics than most of us need to, and our pets face very similar. But glyphosate is a huge impact in this equation, okay? And whenever the microbiome is impacted, everything in the body is impacted. So dysbiosis is a term that means an imbalance of the microbiome in the gut. So you don't have a healthy microbiome anymore. You have, an unhealthy balance, many groups that are missing, many pathogenic groups that aren't supposed to be there.
Before you attempt to give your dog probiotics, it's important that your dog's terrain needs some preparation for success. The treatment for leaky gut will vary depending on how serious and how treatable they are. Watch this next video to help you determine the best treatment for your dog.